last week we ended with the image of finding a map after living in a new town for a couple of weeks. If you've wrestled a bit with whatever you're in, you can better appreciate the presence of perspective whenever it arrives. There's so many different takes on workflow that it can be overwhelming. In this video, we're going to sort of like get in a little jet, okay, and fly around at a much higher altitude. And beyond gaining this kind of like bird's eye view, what we'll look at here will set a foundation, a very long-term foundation for the rest of this series to build upon. I'm excited. Let's get into it. There are multiple factors that color and shape work. 5 main ones are space, time, tools, products, and speed. Or to put it another way, where work takes place, when work takes place, what is used to work, what is made by work, and how fast work is done. It's the generally agreed upon opinion of historians that there have been 3 significantly distinct combinations of these factors. Within the study of the history of work and technology, these 3 distinct combinations are called ages. The 3 ages of work are the agricultural age, the industrial age, and the information age. To appreciate the differences of the 3 ages, let's examine how the 5 main categories of space, time, tools, products, and speed shift from age to age. Let's warm up by first laying out each age according to the 5 categories. Once we're comfortable with this framework, we can then analyze the layout and generate some new insights from it. Okay, so first we have the agricultural age. The simpler times. Work was done in fixed locations, primarily the field and the cottage. And as an interesting aside, the recent phenomenon of working from home is actually a return to these cottage years when work rarely involved leaving one's family or home. Okay, but the fertility of the land, this is what drove the location, and the beginning and ending of the working day was governed by the rising and the setting of the sun. Your main tools were your hands. Secondary tools were domesticated animals and plants, and simple analog machines. Think things like a shovel, an axe, a hoe, etc. What were you creating at this time? Well, food is the most obvious answer. Additional simple analog machines is another one. Also, shelters were being produced. Most of these products, the things that were being created through the work, have a quality which we could call completeness. We'll see this shift in the industrial age, where the emphasis is more on parts rather than wholes. But here in the agricultural age, it was normal for the entire product, from beginning to end, to be created by the same person or at least the same family. All of this was occurring at what we might call a natural speed, using the word literally here, so like naturally as opposed to unnatural or artificial. There wouldn't be anything new or novel about the rate in which work was getting done in this age. Next is the industrial age. Now, the dates for the agricultural age get a little messy, so we left them out, but we can start delineating specific dates at this point without getting into too much trouble. So let's go ahead and do that. The industrial age begins around 1760 and ends with the beginning of World War I in 1914. The location of work now centralizes within the factory. The norm becomes the father and his older sons leaving the home to go work in the factory, as opposed to staying, at the cottage or in the field. Artificial light comes in maybe a little later than you think, at least for me. I was surprised when doing the research for this. The first large-scale application of Edison's incandescent lamps was 1880 with the Oregon Railroad and Navigation Company, but that by no means indicates widespread use. After a messy legal battle, Edison finally acquires his main patent in 1898. We'll get into this later in the series, but as a reference point, the industrial age is typically divided into two parts. The first part already ends by around 1840. So the application of electric light to extend the working day really isn't significantly present in the industrial age. Now, there's a major change when it comes to tools. No longer is the human hand the lead. Rather, complex analog machines take center stage. Production moves forward. Textiles are really the first big product. Steel and its relationship with trains, which we'll get to later in the series, is another big player. Complex analog machines are being made, but by many different people who are assembling separately made parts. So you can compare that to that quality of completeness that we were talking about in the agricultural age. Speed ramps up here due to the new practice of mass production. Now, there's arguments about this next age. Some argue it hasn't fully begun. Others argue that it's already over and we've entered a new age. But from what I can tell in the reading that I've done, those seem to be the exception rather than the norm. I think the norm is that starting in the 1950s and continuing into our present time is what most people agree upon is the information age. So painting with broad strokes here, the transitional path, how do we get from the industrial age to the information age? And really, where does the name information age come from? Well, that path from the industrial age to the information age was triggered by the expansion of means of production. Factories made the production of additional factories easier. With the expansion of means of production came the need for more management. And the scale of that management grew, along with the kinds of questions and variables being gauged. And thus came the rise of knowledge work and the importance of information, hence the name of this age. Products are still important here, but this is where we see the rise of services, research, analysis, creativity. These are all new raw materials of the economy. Work initially moved from the factory to the office building, but we're now seeing a significant rise in working from home or really working anywhere that has internet, which itself is rapidly changing with the launch of Starlink in 2019. As a funny aside on the topic of just kind of working from anywhere, when recording this series, when doing the writing of it, I literally did a Zoom coaching session with a participant in the mastery program. As this person was running through Costco, like tossing stuff in the shopping cart and whatnot, and I thought, man, this is just, this could not have been dreamed of, 10 years ago. Regarding the time of work, working at any time, day or night, is possible now. That line has blurred so much that sleep has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. The primary tool has now become the mind, dethroning the hand of the agricultural age and the machine of the industrial age. Large, fixed, complex analog machines have largely been replaced by tiny, ultra-mobile, complex digital machines. Not only can we instantly send messages to each other with one hand, but with biometric authentication, things like text to voice, voice to text, all of this swirls together. Some work can literally be done without lifting a finger. And what is this work creating? Well, that starts to become a lot harder to put one's finger on. For consultants, the product is advice. For lawyers, a product is an argument. For data analysts, a product is a curation, interpretation, and modeling of information. Yes, these are not the only professions, and we're highlighting examples that stand out, but the point isn't that these are the only professions, but that they simply are professions, which few, if any, from previous ages could have ever guessed. The speed of all of this feels like the speed of light, or at least the speed of sound. Getting more and more used to voice dictation, I've actually started catching myself feeling like typing, on my phone or on the computer is too slow, and I'm always kind of looking for an opportunity to use voice to text. So let's do some quick kind of like horizontal analysis here. When we move through these ages, we go from working at specific places, at specific times, with our hands to craft a thing in its entirety out of organic materials, to working anywhere at any time with our minds in digital tools to create ideas and pieces of software at a rate that seems to be growing exponentially. Why is this analysis important? What are we doing? What insights does it provide us with? It may seem odd, but we get the answer to those questions by first answering this question. What's the one thing that did not substantially change across those 3 ages? Well, we'll answer that question next week.